Hey everybody, welcome back to our Texas Real Estate and Construction YouTube channel. We have, for the very first time, we have Romney Navarro from Austin, Texas. How you doing today, Romney?
I'm doing all right, Aaron. Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. I know we marked the calendar a while back, and it's great to have you on. I'm excited to hear, about your background and your experience in the business and what you're looking to do in the future. So it's going to be a good one.
Wonderful, buddy. Can't wait.
Absolutely. So I know a little about your background, but for those of us who aren't too familiar with you, could you introduce yourself and maybe talk a bit about how you got into the real estate space and what got you interested in being in your part of the business?
Sure. Without keeping it too long-winded, I'll try to keep it short. Um, but but yeah, you do know a little bit about me. We even have a little bit of history together. Maybe that's something we talk about here during the conversation. But yeah, man. So you know, I'll talk to you like I'm talking to you, not necessarily to the audience. But I stumbled into real estate. I didn't force my way into real estate. Um, Real estate to me was it started as a means to an end. I had, you know, I had some goals, I had some ambitions, I had some bills, and I saw real estate as a place where people were making money. And I'm talking to you now, kind of circa 2004. And I didn't know anything about the game. I just saw those that were, in the game seem to be succeeding. And I'm looking at these folks and I'm thinking, well, that guy's no different than me. That lady's no different than me. That guy's no different than me. So, I should have some success in this. So I had a cousin who was actually in the title space, and he had a very successful title company down in South Florida. And I basically asked him, "Hey, man, can I come on board and do whatever you want?" And he said, "Sure. I have this need and that need." And I started at a very low level need. It's what they call post closing. When a file closes, I make copies. And I was fresh out of school, not thinking that I know more than maybe the people in the office, but certainly didn't know anything about the industry. So, I got a lot of kind of insight into the industry being entitled, not necessarily making copies, though I did get some insight, don't get me wrong. Just the types of people that came through those doors were very different than the types of people that, I later in life were able to connect with. And those people kind of set the foundation for me, man. I was dealing with mortgage brokers, I was dealing with real estate agents, I was dealing with regular buyers and regular sellers, I was dealing with investors. Every once in a while, I deal with a builder, so the grouping was broad. And I started kind of getting a little bit of interest in the game. And life happens the way life happens. There's a lot of stuff that happened before then, but after that, I decided I was going. So this was happening in South Florida. I decided I was going to move back to Austin, Texas, where I went to school and where I met my soon-to-be wife. So my wife and I, or my girlfriend at the time, and I decided to get married. And after we got married, we decided to move back to Austin. So I've been a title guy all these years. Oh, excuse me. I wasn't just making copies. I graduated to different roles within the company, more important roles, more responsible roles. I was, the closing guy, the guy that signed you, the guy that prepared the settlement statement, the guy that dispersed the money. And I was doing, so many deals on a frequent basis. And I moved to Austin, and I was like, all right, what am I going to do now? I flipped a couple of properties. I know how to do title. I've dabbled in mortgage lending. And as luck would have it, kind of hanging out at a bar, I met a guy and he said, hey, we're talking, right? I mean, we're kind of crying a little bit in each other's beers. He's like, hey, man, we're opening up an office in Austin and we're going to be lending commercial real estate. You interested in it? And I was like, am I interested? I need a job. Of course I'm interested. So long story short, man, kind of what I have become over the last 15 to 20 years is a lender. Um, and that all started at a bar here in Austin where some guy told me, hey, you want to be a commercial lender? I said, yeah, I want to be a commercial lender. Lo and behold, that company was called Silver Hill Financial. They've got a pretty good name in today's marketplace. They've come back to business. I worked with them for about 4 years doing commercial lending. And then maybe we'll save the rest for later, how I got into kind of the next part of the industry. But I got into real estate kind of because I saw people doing it and I figured that guy's no smarter than me. Um, And in some ways, the hypothesis was I was right. It worked for me.
Absolutely. And it sounds like you've been through a lot of different cycles, obviously 2008, there were other struggles as well, different recessions, what we're seeing now. Could you maybe talk a bit about just the different economic cycles you've seen throughout your career and how you think they compare to where we are now in 2024?
Yeah. Yeah. So talking about 2008. So first and foremost, I got into the industry in 2000 and approximately 2003. This is when I was making copies. In 2004, in 2004, 5, and 6, I graduated. I did a whole lot more. Actually, I'm dating myself by saying this, but I actually missed. I got into this industry in 2002, making copies. 2003, I became a closing agent or an escrow agent. 2002, 3, 4, 5, I stayed in that role. 2006, I became a commercial lender. 2006, 7, and 8, I experienced a tremendous amount of success lending on commercial real estate. Somewhere in 2008, the world kind of came to a screeching halt, like immediately just stopped, dude. So, what did I do to get out of there? But more specifically, what did the market cycle look like? Well, let me tell you what it looked like. I'm a commercial lender in at the time of the 2008 Great Recession, and I've got a pipeline of a couple $100 million worth of loans that I'm trying to close to feed my family, to satisfy my customers, to basically build my book of business. And it was approximately April 1st of 2008 where we get a call from corporate, which happens to be in Miami. I'm sitting in my office in Austin, not too far from here. And the call is like, hey, we're shutting down our lending operations. You guys have 7 days to leave. And I'm thinking, holy cow, what do we do here? So what I saw in the first market cycle was different. I was an originator, a salesperson. Okay. But what I saw as an originator or salesperson is how quickly from one day to another they could turn off the lights. So going from my first year making $100,000 a couple of years earlier and growing that to I no longer have an income stream in this game. What is going on? That's pretty severe. So the market cycle to me was a little bit more personal. It wasn't so much the macroeconomics. I learned a lot, don't get me wrong. But I learned macroeconomics later on in my career as kind of my roles evolved. But the first one in 2008 was so severe that my entire $200 million pipeline did not close. So if you're okay with me just kind of telling you this part, what I learned in 2008, remember it was April or so 2008, when they called us and they said, you guys are out of a job. I had to fend for myself and figure some things out. I could go back to title, I could go back to lending, but at this point in time, as a 27-year-old man or so, I could have probably done anything. But I felt like real estate was my thing, and I felt like I was a good lender. So I looked at my pipeline and I'm like, what am I going to do with these deals? And what you do whenever you're trying to learn anything, certainly pre-AI days, you Google, how do I close a loan? Um, and maybe I didn't exactly type that in, but I typed something real similar. And I was like, I got all these loans. How the hell do I close them? And what I learned was a thing called hard money. And this is still, summer, turning fall 2008. And I said, hard money, what is that? Learned a little bit more about it. This isn't like a day's worth of research. This is weeks worth of research, understanding how do I structure, what does it work for, whatever. So hard money can do your deals because hard money isn't tethered to the same thing happening on Wall Street. And I said, oh, cool. Hard money Austin, local hard money lenders. And I found a list of 5 or 6 guys. I literally cold called every one of them. They literally spoke to me. For some reason or another, they were very busy in these days because since the regular banks weren't lending, the hard money guys were getting all the looks. Well, I got to meet every single one of these people personally. I've actually still have a relationship with every single one of them who are still very much in the game in different versions, but still very much in the game. And one of the people that I walked to called said, "Hey, come to the office and show me the deal." I said, "Sure, I'll show you the deal because I got to get paid." Not necessarily always the best reason to do something, but certainly a driving force. And I go to the office. I start talking to the originator, maybe for a lack of a better word. She's asking me all these questions. I'm dialed in, answering all the things because I underwrote this, with my life. And she's like, "Let me bring somebody in here. Let me bring the founder in here to talk to you about, something. See if he's interested." He makes a final decision. This dude walks in, kind of big ogre dude, and he looks at the deal. He asks me 2 or 3 questions, and then 2 or 3 questions in, he says, "Hey man, do you want a job?" I said, "Let me think about this for a second." And I didn't even know the terms of the gig. I said, "You know what? I do," because I just got a feel for how these people underwrite. It's like, yeah, I could work with this group. Anyway, it was a hard money lender. It ended up being the next 15 years of my career was with this hard money shop, called Streamline Funding, which we both know. And to the point where, throughout my tenure, a lot of things evolved. I went from a loan officer to some form of vice president of something, to some form of C-suite something, to a partner in the parent company, to ultimately to the CEO of the lending company. And it was a pretty cool journey. I enjoyed every bit of it, even the hard days. But I learned about private lending. So the question is, what did I learn and what did I see in these market cycles and how do they differ? Um, I learned in the 2008 cycle that I needed to be something different. I needed to almost reinvent myself. And I think the same is true right now. A lot of people need to, maybe don't need to, but reinvention is on the menu for a lot of folks, for better or worse. And I hope for better for anybody who's paying attention. Reinvention is important. Inside of the little space that we know as real estate, the same play that you ran for so many years leading up until this market slowdown doesn't exist. It doesn't hit the same at the same average. So if you're used to being a 300 hitter, you might be hitting a buck 80 right now, right? That same might be true for dollars earned and assets gathered and you name it. Just the same play doesn't work. So right now, this recession, and that's what we're going to call it. I'll let the Fed call it something, but I've felt the slowdown as much as you, as much as anybody listening. Got to tell you, man, I think it's a point for reinvention. A lot of people like me, a lot of people like you, are going to come out looking a little different, doing something a little different, just kind of utilizing those tools that have made us good, made us special, over the years, and just reapplying them to something ever so slightly different than what we've been doing.
Absolutely. Aside from, I don't want to call it drying up, but aside from maybe a bit of the lending drying up and maybe a bit of the underwriting being a little more stringent now, how exactly do you pivot or what exactly does reinvention look like for somebody out there trying to adjust to this new market?
That's a good question. Well, I mean, listen, I could tell you my story, and maybe we could draw some parallels. I don't know everybody's situation. I would say it's at best it's personal to every person. You know, at worst, some people might end up out of the industry. So reinvention to me. So back to the previous firm that I mentioned, Streamline Funding. As a partner inside of that role, inside of that company, as the CEO of that company, I exited, as a cap table and equity partner. So part of the terms of these deals is you don't want to compete, and I don't want to compete. So I haven't been competing, with the firm as was part of the deal. But because of that, that's not the reason I'm reinventing. I didn't want to do the same thing anymore. I didn't necessarily want to do it because the market was drying up. I want to do something different because I put 15 years of my life into this thing and I'm a little tired. I'm a little tired and I see other folks running by me with other strategies that are just working. And I see myself, constantly growing and moving, but these guys are flying by. It's almost like, you're stuck in traffic and the HOV lane is flying. Same thing. So my reinvention was a little different. I took about a month and a half off, maybe 2 months off, Aaron, and did absolutely nothing as it relates to cash flow, revenue, assets. I did a whole lot of soul searching, traveling, talking to friends, advisors, just people that I trust. And that was healing for me. So again, a lot of people are going through a slowdown, and the slowdown comes with a lot of negatives including less income, less assets, troubled assets. That's very very dangerous in today's market, of course. I certainly would understand. Um, so I had to kind of take a step back and say, hey, what do you want to do? But more specifically, what do you want to do? Who are you? So reinvention starts with a little bit of soul searching. And I feel like I got to a point somewhere it's been about a year, somewhere, earlier, call it 3, 4, 5, 6 months in, I realized, I feel like I'm good at something, and it's very hard for me. And I think it's because I know you personally. I think it's also very hard for you to give yourself credit, if that makes sense. Like, um, if I did something 100 times and the other guy did it 90 times, I still think he did it better. Just because credit is a hard thing to accept, just like some people have a hard time accepting gifts. It's not for everybody, but I needed to get there because I was doubting myself in this kind of new world of who the hell are you? And I realized in all of my conversations, I'm absolutely a people person. So, right now, not right now, what I realized I was good at was people or community. I always create some type of positive energy that people want to be a part of, whether it's part of the community, whether it's transactional, whether it's informational, whatever. So I'm very good with people. Um, it's hard for me to say that out loud. It feels like I'm giving myself a pat on the back. I'm not. I'm just discovering myself. So people was one of my strengths. Then I start looking at my career and what I've done. In my career, I've done $1.5 billion worth of loans. So, oh crap, I'm a loan guy. I'm a debt guy. I'm not a deal guy. But then I started looking at, so towards the end of that run, I became a deal guy. I started doing a lot of equity deals,
Hmm.
investing in personally and or raising, syndicating for really, really strong operators. And as I'm talking to these people in my journey to find myself, I realized, and it goes without question, every single person I spoke to was trying to connect with me on a couple of levels. They wanted capital or they wanted partnership. And I'm telling you now, like maybe it's not every 100%, but 99% of the people that I spoke to needed capital or needed partnership. Basically, can you fund my deal as a lender? Can you bring the equity to my deal? Can you bail me out of my deal? These last years been a little bit hard. There's been a lot of bailout situations. And or partnership. Can you work with me on accomplishing X or Y or Z? So I realized, in addition to people, I was also a deal guy. I'm strong with deals. And then, as luck would have it, I start going to the capital markets and I start talking deals, and I start going to the high net worth investors and I start talking deals. And it's funny, Aaron. I didn't have a lot of success. It was like I know people, I know deals, I don't have a lot of success. And why didn't you have a lot of success? At least I think I didn't have success because I was shooting at the wrong targets, right? So what I realized is the only way to essentially succeed in something that I haven't mastered is through creativity. So I realized creativity was another one of my strengths. So reinvention for me was really and truly, it's funny that we come full circle. Reinvention to me is quite literally the same thing I've done my entire career, just doing it in a different platform or on a different platform. So I'm good with people, I'm good with deals, and I'm good with creativity. So how do I monetize that? And the fact is that wasn't really even my thesis. That's just always kind of omnipresent. The thesis is how do I help the most people? I felt like if I help more people, more good things come. So, I started curating little communities and little groups. So one thing I haven't told you about offline was, I've relaunched a little mastermind that I've had on the shelf for a while called Deal Makers. And I'm really, really, proud of that one. It's a by invitation only type deal. And every month I have 45 killers, and I mean that in a good way. Like 45, high value people, in a room doing deals. And many times they look at me as kind of the center spoke to, or conduit to each other or to the capital or to whatever they need. And that's gone real well. So I've been, kind of harnessing all of that stuff that I feel like I'm good at, people, deals, and creativity. And I've got these little rooms that I curate. Deal Makers is one of them. I'm currently doing some very highly, highly curated fundraising events, or dinners, all across the country. Got a couple coming up in a week or so, also by invitation only, with a little bit more of a marketing kind of a twist to it, where we basically scrape data and put exactly the right type of investor in exactly the right type of room, kind of right place, right time for the fundraiser. And I've been having a lot of success with that, and so too have the people that I've been helping. So, you know, I guess the I guess the moral of this whole story is reinvention for folks right now might just be introspection. Look at yourself kind of right in here somewhere and find out who you are, find out what people, value in you, and maybe double down on that,
Hmm.
you know?
Absolutely. And especially in this, I guess in this online age when it's so easy to get distracted and, the world's telling you to be this or that. And, like you said, it's, you think you're going at a reasonable pace down the road and then someone's flying right by you down the HOV, right?
Yeah. No, and listen, there's a lot of high achievers out there that say, I'm not going to let one car pass me. So
Right.
sometimes that's the rabbit that you're chasing. But yeah, I mean, this world does have so many distractions. I'm guilty of it. My deal makers room started as a blend of real estate and private equity.
Hmm.
And people are like, what the hell? So I've got people selling, printing companies over here, and I've got guys building 18 units over here. And it's like, how do these people come together? They don't. And that's because this world of private equity and buying businesses has been so loud in my brain and on my feed and whatever for so long that I wanted to try to harness it. It's somebody else's game. It's not mine.
Sure. I would imagine that there's going to be a different level of challenges there as well, right? If you're dealing with someone who's building a spec home or doing a small development, under 20 units versus, I'm assuming buying some sort of cash flowing business. Is that the intention, or are you just buying notes or
Ooh. So what am I doing, or how am I helping, or
Yes,
or
I
types
guess
of deals?
just given that the deal makers, like you said, there's so many different types of people in it, guys who are building from the ground up versus maybe raising money or just doing these different things, and you're trying to figure out how do they all fit together.
Yeah.
Where are you coming in? What's your new venture?
Ah, okay, got it. So yeah, let me clean up a little bit of a mess that I might have left. Deal makers was basically I traveled a little bit, when I exited. And I was on a beach, Destin, Florida. If you've never been, super cool. First time I'd ever been. I was on a beach and I was like, just thinking, what am I gonna do? I'll be in town in a week. And so I texted about 15 friends, like, hey, let's have coffee on Friday at 9:30 at a buddy of mine's coffee shop on South Lamar. Let's do this. And everybody's like, okay, let's roll. But I realized the people that I invited didn't really have like a common thread. I didn't invite 15 developers or 15 flippers or 15 lenders or 15 coffee shop owners. I invited the weirdest mixed bag of people you've ever seen. So I have a coffee shop owner, I have a lender, I have a builder, I have a financial advisor, and the list goes on and on. And then to make matters kind of weirder, I had people who were looking to buy businesses, and I had some people looking to sell businesses. So I mentioned that the noise was very loud on the private equity stuff. I might be misusing the term private equity, but on the business acquisition stuff, that was the term. That was what was really loud on the feed. So a lot of people wanted to get into business buying as an alternative to real estate. I got excited by it. I brought it into the room. And now deal makers, in addition to being a platform for real estate investors, I could actually give you a little breakdown of what my rooms typically look like. Includes, business acquisition experts, business sellers. So you've got people buying businesses and people selling businesses. We're talking brick and mortar, a window company, a printing company, a services company, lawn mowing all the way to pool services, whatever. All the way to tech companies, small tech startups that have kind of turned over one. So Dealmakers isn't about that exclusively. Dealmakers in my DNA through these veins is 100% real estate. I just felt like that room was, bringing that into the room kind of created a little bit sense of a different identity that was different in the standard real estate meetups. And that's why I call them a mastermind. I literally have somebody giving a master class at every single meeting, telling about his or her craft, how she or he does it. And they break it down and it's real cool. And then at the end, the real estate guys, business acquisition and sales guys, the investors, they all kind of break out and have a conversation. How I fit, I don't have, it's not a membership deal just yet. I do have members, but they don't pay to be members. And they know that that's coming down here pretty soon because it's getting big. But what I do is, generally speaking, I play kind of the QB. I am a deal guy. So if I introduce John to Susie, it isn't always that they could cut a deal for whatever reason. Sometimes it's because they speak different languages, literally English and Spanish. Sometimes it's because one speaks business acquisition and the other one speaks real estate syndication, different languages. Sometimes it's that they can't seem to ask for a deal. It's a very common thing where it's like, hey, let's combine forces. Sometimes all you need to do is say, okay, look, I will do this if you do that, and we'll split it like this. So I will be on your podcast if this is a terrible example. Can I be on your podcast if I give you a promotion on my socials? I mean, that's an example. In exchange, any deal flow that comes of it, we will have a back end agreement. Simple enough. A lot of times people kind of get stuck on the ask. So I kind of wire these deals together oftentimes. And then you have very capable deal people that don't need any wiring shut. They know how to do it. So inside of deal makers, it's become a little bit of a fertile hunting ground for me, or a top of the funnel type thing for me to see some of the best deals. I've seen some unique things. I've gone from seeing, 500 unit apartment buildings to seeing, property in Tulum, Mexico, to seeing, and I'm only calling out the good ones. I've seen a lot of deals that I wouldn't be able to touch. Boutique hotels throughout Texas in these kind of unique communities that are always traveled on the weekends, but very rarely traveled during the weekday. I've seen, a private credit deal that still blows my mind to finance luxury yachts. I'm currently involved in that deal and I love it. I think that's going to be a game changer. So I see everything in there. That's what a deal maker is, you know. It just so happens that real estate happens to be in every deal talk. In every deal room, there's a real estate deal, guaranteed. So that's what that is. So yeah, what am I doing? So really, Aaron, man, I guess you could say I'm doing a few things. I haven't settled down. I haven't taken a job. I haven't wanted to take a job. I'm trying to kind of spin up my things. Some of my things are at revenue and even at profitability, which is great. But generally speaking, I'm trying to kind of combine a couple of universes to create the most, steam for everybody. Right now, my focuses are on being a capital partner to real estate developers. I want to kind of caveat this. That's not my stump speech. I do not work with many people. I'm highly selective. I currently have 3 partners. One guy in Houston, another guy in between Houston and Austin, and one guy in Austin. I don't have, this isn't a thing where come one, come all. I'm quite literally looking for the best operators that need somebody like me to deliver capital and run their back office. Make sure that we're underwriting for them, make sure that we're running their books for them, and make sure that the money's there when it's needed. I found it to be an incredibly, well, aside from lucrative and profitable, which it is, I found it to be something that's been really fulfilling, because you quite literally establish partners. Like you're in these deals with these people. Um, the best way to explain it is, I'm talking, and what's even more beautiful is these are folks that, we're becoming fast friends. They're accustomed to building a house a year, and now having a capital partner, they're building 8 houses at a time. You know, my next deal coming up, in any minute now. I look at my watch because I can't. It's almost the end of the month. My next deal is a 14 house build in Houston. We're grabbing debt from a traditional bank, as most people would do, and then I'm bringing equity into the deal. And now the builder and myself, my team, we're partners in the transaction. It works out real well. So I'm doing that. Capital partnerships in the form of joint ventures has been beautiful. I'm definitely open to talking to people. I have a lot of conversations about this one. I'm not a good fit for everybody. It costs money, right? So it's gonna cost the partnership something. It's gonna cost me something. But I bring dollars to a deal. The other thing I've been doing, so kind of going back to my background and back to kind of my creative deal making, everybody that I talked to for such a long time is like, hey, can you help me raise capital? Can you help me raise capital for, a couple hotels? Can you help me with the thing in Tulum? Can you help me raise capital for 500 units for a yacht thing? And then you could go all the way into bizarro world, for a retail establishment, for, a cannabis company. And I was like, oh, too much information. I can't help you raise capital for anything. Everybody wants to raise capital, and rightfully so, but I'm not the person that can raise capital for everybody. But I realized, where I've had success in my career is in credit. So assisting folks establish their private credit facilities has been something that I've been able to do with a high degree of success and certainty. And maybe said in a real kind of simplistic way is, if you are a lender and you want to lend more, I'm the kind of guy that can give you that juice. If you are a business and want to incorporate lending into your business, I'm the type of guy that could bring you that juice. Lending in the world of private lending is not exclusive to real estate. Financing vehicle or structure for real estate, yachts, cars, printers, you name it, they all kind of look the same, because these are, while regulated in some capacity, these are all private loans. These are not government-backed loans. So you kind of create a financing structure that consists of a little bit of debt, a little bit of equity, and sometimes some mezzanine in the middle. And you create a financing vehicle for people. So, I've been directly or indirectly associated with a few deals. And I say that because the indirectly has led to kind of leads that have led to deals that we've closed in various industries. Obviously, real estate finance, to home services and office services. So laser printers and equipment in offices. People finance those. I've structured for that. To aviation, to now, as I mentioned to you earlier, I don't even know, maritime. I don't even know what you call it, but boats. And it's really cool to create a private credit structure. I know I'm going long-winded, buddy. I told you I would. It's kind of my problem. The private credit right now, in terms of allocation from Wall Street, private credit is kind of a darling. We're kind of in the age of private credit today. And I'm talking to you, of course, September, October 2024. Today is the age of private credit. Wall Street wants it. You get higher yields than the type of private equity that Wall Street plays at. I think private equity is the play for high net worth types that have an eye for deals. But private credit is absolutely something that can be structured. And then all of a sudden you create lending facilities for people, for like I said, for anything. And then finally, Aaron, to kind of, I said it, my goal is to piece these worlds together. Like think of a Venn diagram with three circles, and then here in the middle is this little sweet spot is kind of what I'm working on, is curating rooms. So curating deal rooms and curating capital rooms. I put these rooms together so that I could find the private credit deals to assist, so I could find the private, investors to invest in those private credit deals and to invest in these joint venture deals. So to to kind of bring it all together, I feel like I've had a lot of success with that last one. But this one's almost like just a carryover from my previous career. I've always done some version of this, and this is actually something that I would promote on here. Um, I have the ability through a partnership to create a room, not create a room like an AI. I'm saying I'll give you an example. Next week, 2 weeks from now, I will be in San Francisco on Tuesday and in Chicago on Wednesday. Both of these rooms, both of these trips are for a reason. There is a founder who has an idea that he's turned it into a business that or in this case, one is a he and one is a she. He or she has turned it into a business and they've turned it into a little revenue, and now they're trying to raise money to get them to the next level. So how do you raise money? Raising money is, I mean, that's a loaded question, honestly. What I can do is assist by giving them access to high net worths. So I'm going around the country right now hosting these fundraising dinners in mansions, in these super cool cities where these super cool companies, reside, and giving them 20 to 30 high net worths in a room to listen to their presentation, to their pitch, to their opportunity. And it's worked out really, really well. I've there's about 100 events that have already gone on. I certainly haven't been to every single one of them, but I do plan to be at every single one for the remainder of the year and maybe into the beginning of next year, because it's a great community that's building. But basically, if you're looking to raise money for your thing, whatever it may be, um, once I understand your investor persona through through a marketing campaign, which includes a lot of scraping of internet data, I basically populate a room with your persona, your target persona, and then allow you to then go and do the close. Tell them, here's what I'm working on, here's why you should invest in me, and then close the deal. So what am I doing? What is all that reinvention and all this 15 years of crap that I've been doing for such a long time? It led me to doing joint ventures with absolutely awesome operators in the real estate space. It led me to helping people launch their lending or grow their lending platforms. And all of that was made, available by curating these rooms with great deals and great investors, which I can also help people with. Um, that sounds like a lot, but trust me, at the center of it, it all kind of feeds itself.
It seems like really throughout the show, there's always a common denominator, right? Like even you talking about, you seemingly had all these different types of people, but yet that common denominator was real estate, right? Or there is this recurring theme of, everybody wants basically a capital and a connection, right?
100%.
Absolutely, Ron. Well, is there anything that you haven't said that you'd really just like to hit home for us?
Is there anything I haven't said? Well, maybe we've got a little bit of a background.
Yeah.
Let's start there. So for those that don't know, we worked together for a number of years. Part of that was a good run, and then towards the end, it wasn't quite so good. But I think what I would like to so again, for those of you that don't know, both Aaron and I were hard money lenders. We played different roles at different times, and we also met even before that, which is even a different story. But it was almost like a meant to be how we met and then how we came to work together for so long. Um, that time that we worked together, Aaron, this is now talking to you, was the beginning of my reinvention, the beginning of like, I don't think I love doing this anymore, right? I've been running the same play for so long, and I think it's time for kind of the next generation to jump in. This is of course towards the end of your tenure, which shortly thereafter was the end of my tenure. Um, so I guess what I wanted people to know, maybe on a personal side, is we work together. I've had a lot of love for you for a long time. And in all fairness, my career as a hard money lender may not be up forever. I still dream of the day where I'm riding my bike at the beach when I'm 65 years old, just checking out the projects that I've got money invested into. Um, but what I did for the last 15, 16 years was try to grow a lending company from, zero to hero with varying degrees of success, even winning a big, kind of coveted award at a national level called the Private Lender of the Year, Think Realty Honors Private Lender of the Year. So some things were going great, but there was a point where I got burnt out. And that's why I'm kind of excited about the future, man. The future of reinvention is like, it's almost like just rebirth, brand new. Um, and being able to kind of call it my way. I mean, when you've got um, one thing that you do with one set of people that you do it with, the box is kind of small. When you have a couple things that you do with a couple of sets of people, especially a couple of sets of highly creative and high value people, the box is almost just blown up and it's just a wide open, fairway. So I don't have any advice for anybody. I don't have any, words of wisdom. I don't have any little kind of anecdote, but I use the term reinvention. I use the term, I use that term because I felt like a lot of people are at the cusp of it right now. Um, Somehow, some way, whatever you were doing, you're going to be doing something different, following a market, correction like the one that we're experiencing. And man, it feels good to do it on your terms. So find out what you're a genius in, man. Again, I know you weren't asking for advice or words of wisdom. It was just what I wanted to say. Reinvention feels good, buddy. Um, I'm wearing shorts today. I don't, I don't wear shorts. I'm wearing a cap. I'm wearing this cap. This is speaking of reinvention. This young man. This cap is a family friend of mine, Nick Castellanos. He got drafted by the Tigers. I'm not a Tigers fan, but he gave us my brother and his dad are best of friends. He gave my brother this hat when my brother told him that I was coming into town. And this is, I'm gonna not show my hair, but it's got his number in there, which is pretty cool. And this guy's gone from kind of a scrappy hitter to a potential Hall of Famer the older he's gotten and been consistent at the plate. And talk about reinvention. You've got some kid that was good, and now he's great.
All right. I like the story behind that hat. It sounds like it's a continual reminder every time you put it on, right?
Yeah, and I mean, slowly I'm become. He doesn't play for them anymore, but it was his rookie hat, so one of his rookie hats. So yeah, it is absolutely that.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. Well, thank you for the insight there, Romney. It's been great to sit down with you and catch up and chat and talk a bit, more in depth about your background and how you got into the business and different different facets of your experience, right? Because if anything, there's like you said, you're seemingly running that same play, for years and years at a time, and then reinvention. And it's neat to see how there's many different dimensions to what you do.
Yeah, thanks, bud. Thanks, and I'm really proud of you and where you've gone, but specifically this podcast. I remember when we met the second time, meaning when we started working together officially, not in an unofficial capacity. Um, I remember finding out about it, and it was always just kind of there, and we didn't talk about it too much. And then we looked into it. It's like, oh wait, this guy's got something cool going on. That was years ago, Aaron. That was well before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And you have powered through, buddy. You look the part, you sound the part. You definitely are staying consistent in your area of expertise and your genius. And if I could ever help, grow anything in your world, through the things that I do, but also through the things that I don't, by all means, man, I'd love that. And if I could help your audience grow in any way, I mean, come to a deal makers event. Like I said, while they're by invitation only, hit me up and I'll reserve a couple. Come to one of my private fundraising dinners. Those are cool. Those are really cool. Um, whatever. I'm happy to help. And and again, I feel like to some degree, while I've enjoyed every minute of my career, even the dark days, I mean that. Um, I feel like this new version of me is, is kind of is free, and therefore I could do whatever I want. And sometimes that includes, helping people get uh, to their goals too.
All right. Absolutely. I appreciate the kind words, Romney. Everybody, we will definitely have Romney's information in the show notes. Any way for you to connect with him, whether it's any of his socials or coming to his events, we'll make sure to have that in there. So Romney, again, pleasure to sit down with you and chat. It's been great. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, bud. Appreciate you.
All right, y'all. Signing off. We will talk to you next time.